Question. Hello, Kim. It feels to me that even if we have resolved subconscious selves, we still have our true I am presence to work on. I see a lot of non-duality teachings that seem to believe that once we can achieve non-duality, that there is no suffering, etc. But if it is true that we have past lives, past karma, and we have embodied to keep learning and growing, then even our true self has issues or questions or explorations, and that even our true self can be at a lower level of awareness or want things in life that could be considered lower level consciousness. Am I right in this observation? Because otherwise there would be no more work to do than to just mentally think our way to non-duality. We actually have to find out who we truly are and work from there. Well, yes, I think you're right. I mean, these are important observations. The Masters have actually explained, and this is something that for Ascended Master students who have been involved with previous Ascended Master teachings, like the I Am movement or the Summit Lighthouse, this can take a little bit of mental adjustment, because in those movements the I Am presence was presented as being this almost godlike being, almost a perfect being. But what the Masters have said through me is that you have to realize that the reason why you are in embodiment on a planet like Earth is that your I Am presence isn't an ascended being yet. It sent you here because it wanted to grow and qualify for the Ascension. So the I Am presence, it has a very complex individuality, but it's not created as an ascended being, because you can't be created as an ascended being. You can be created as an unascended master, because the essence of our existence is free will, our growth in awareness, and we grow by making choices. So there are two distinct ways to express free will. As I've said many times, we can see ourselves as connected beings and seek to expand our connection, or we can see ourselves as separate beings. And so Ascended Masters have ascended because they have given up permanently, voluntarily, consciously, all desire to use their free will as separate beings, to see themselves as separate beings. The desire to have the experience of being a separate being, that's what you give up in order to ascend. And in order to give that up, you have to experiment with the consciousness of separation and duality, so you know what it is. You have to know what you're giving up. And you can't experiment with duality in the spiritual realm. Therefore, a new sphere is created as an unascended sphere, where beings can start out having this. But as I've also explained, the I Am presence is a very complex individuality, and that's why the fullness of the I Am presence doesn't take embodiment. It sends the conscious you down to take embodiment. But as the person says, your I Am presence can have desires to experience something in the unascended sphere. It needs to experience this in order to come to the point where it decides, I no longer want that experience. So what happens is basically this. Long time ago, your I Am presence decided to send you, the conscious you that is the core of your being, into embodiment. This may have happened on a natural planet. It probably didn't. It could have started on Earth. You could be an original Earth inhabitant, but it could also be an avatar who came. It doesn't really matter. I'm going too much into detail here. But the I Am presence decided to send you down into embodiment. And you, the conscious you, in order to take embodiment, let's just focus on Earth, you had to create what I call the 4 lower bodies. You had to create the identity level, the mental, the emotional, and that allowed you to integrate with the physical body. And you have created structures in this, and you have probably, if you're on Earth, gone into duality and separation. So you've created dualistic subconscious selves. And these are in your 4 lower bodies. They are created by the conscious you Conscious you hasn't become them, but as long as you identify with them, you're experiencing the world through the self. So the conscious you can come to a point where it turns around, it decides it doesn't want this anymore, it wants to climb back up the levels of the 144 levels of consciousness. So the conscious you can actually come to a point where you have resolved all the dualistic selves that you created. You've resolved them at the level of the conscious you. And the question now is, does your I am presence still have certain desires for what it wants to experience on earth? I'm not saying your conscious you desires to experience what it's like to be a mafia boss or something like that. But it can still have certain desires for what it wants to experience on earth. So there can come a point where there is sort of a two-way street between the I am presence and the conscious you, where normally you would say that the I am presence is the anchor point for the conscious you, the frame of reference. But there can come a point where the conscious you can actually work with the I am presence to help the I am presence overcome certain desires. So it is correct that you can, if we have resolved subconscious selves, we still have our I am presence to work on. That can be the case. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. Now, the person says, a lot of non-duality teachings seem to believe that once we can achieve non-duality, there is no suffering. And that's it's a flawed reasoning, and you can actually find videos on YouTube that describe people who bought into that promise and they felt they had now been awakened. But then after some time, their unresolved psychology came back. And it's just simply, as I said, we first took embodiment on earth a long time ago. We created a lot of these subconscious selves, separate selves. And it's possible that the conscious you can step outside the four lower bodies and have a genuine experience of being outside the four lower bodies. But then when you go back into the four lower bodies, you start interpreting that experience with some of the beliefs you have in, for example, your identity mind. So if you have this mindset, this culture of some of these non-dual teachings, you will think, oh, I'm awakened now. I have seen beyond duality, I've seen the non-dual reality, and therefore there's no more suffering. And then you're basically denying your own unresolved psychology, you're pushing it into the subconscious. And that can work for a while. It's just like when you are fall in love with a person. All of a sudden you're on cloud 9 and you think life is wonderful. And then after you start having a relationship with that person, all of a sudden you realize, oh, they're actually a different human being than what I thought they were. And it's the same thing. After the non-dualistic euphoria wears off, you realize, oh, I'm actually still the same human being that I thought I had overcome. And so you still have that psychology, which many people have started realizing now. I see videos all the time where they talk about this. So if it's true that we have past lives, past karma, and we have embodied to keep learning and growing, even our true self can be at a lower level of awareness. So as I said, yeah, your I am presence, you could theoretically come to a point where the conscious you has had enough of the experiences you can have on earth, but your I am presence hasn't yet. And I don't think you can come to that point if your I am presence still has a desire to experience lower level consciousness, as the person says. But the I am presence can still have a desire to do something on earth, to make a contribution. For example, I think there are people, spiritual people, who the I am presence has a genuine desire to help manifest Saint Germain's golden age. And the conscious you may have come to a point where, in a sense, the conscious you is ready to ascend, because it doesn't have anything that it personally wants to do here on earth. But the I am presence still wants to have an anchor point in the physical realm so that it can bring forth something that can help manifest Saint Germain's Golden Age, or make some other positive contribution to society. So I think that's legitimate enough. And my own experience was that before I started working with the Ascended Masters, I had that breakthrough where I realized that there was nothing I personally wanted to do on Earth. That means the conscious you said, there's nothing I want to do on Earth. And then the Ascended Master Jesus approached me and said, if there isn't something you personally want to do, are you willing to do something for me? Bring forth these teachings, the Ask Will Jesus website, and everything else is sort of followed from that. And it wasn't necessarily my own presence who wanted to do this, but it was that as a conscious you, I was willing to say, yes, even though I don't have a personal desire anymore to do anything on Earth, I'm willing to be the open door for my own presence, the Ascended Master, to express something through me. And I think many, many spiritual people are at that point in the past. Many people have come to that point, and hopefully many more will in the coming decades come to that point, so that all together, all these spiritual people can really make a contribution to manifesting Saint Germain's Golden Age. I think there are many spiritual people who have vowed to be an embodiment in this lifetime to help manifest Saint Germain's Golden Age, and many are vowing or will make the decision to come back into another embodiment to help bring that Golden Age further along. And for some it will be the I Am Presence that has that desire to be part of that.